So it's time to try something different. Time to try something new. Something that I really haven't done for a while, but it's something that I really have been wanting to do. Yeah, I'm going to start talking about my actual stories. I'm going to start talking about the actual work I'm doing and less in the abstract and more, I don't want to say concrete because you know me, I'm going to be coy about it, but more detail than normal. And I may also have something a little bit special for this episode. So let's get to it.
I have something to say. Project Shadow starts now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I'm a non-binary sci-fi fantasy writer, and emphasis really on the sci-fi part of that right now, because I'm working on that more than anything else. Though it wouldn't be unfair to call the work that I'm doing fantasy, because there's a lot of magic and a lot of mysticism and a lot of mystery in it. But there are quite a few people out there that when they see a spaceship, they go, it's sci-fi. So, call it what you want. I call it fun. But the really fun part of today's episode, and hopefully going forward, is you're not going to just be hearing my voice today. I am joined by my wonderful husband, Brian. Hello, I'm Bart, baby. And we're going to be talking about what we've been working on in the background, kind of quietly, and where we're wanting to go with it. Because y'all know some of the plans, but it's time to dig in deeper and let you know since stuff has started appearing. Yeah, that's right. Something got published already. It's a little thing, but something already came out. So I just want to say before we get started into this too deep, thank you to everybody who helps to support us, either over on Substack, over on Ko-fi, or on Patreon. Your support means the world to me. We are Project Shadow over on Substack, and CE Dorset on both Ko-fi and Patreon. And yeah, a lot of things are going to be coming y'all's way, including early access to a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. So you may want to go over there and help us keep this content coming to you. And now that I feel like I need a shower, we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. You know, I feel dirty anytime I'm like, hey, give me money, buy my book. But you know, it is part of the process. It's the thing that needs to be done. Today, I want to talk about our Solemn Hour and some of the projects that are going on over there. And we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast already. I've done episodes about my love of tabletop RPGs and why I'm currently making one. And I think that might actually be a good place to start.
I'm nodding. Y'all can't hear it. I was like, yay. Apparently the rattle is broken in there, in my brain.
So what we're going to be doing for our first game, we've already talked about it, is going to be the Fates Hunter game, which is going to be coming alongside the Mask of the Gods series as it gets launched, where Knight is going to be going off to magic school, but not like no hogs were warded in the making of this magic school. It's not the kind of place. As I've said many times in the past, my fiction is very rooted in kind of a wuxia Jedi Geki background. Those are some of the stories that I grew up loving the most. And yeah, the magic school that he's going to go to is more of a, okay, so you think you can talk to the fates? We think you might be able to. So we're going to send you to a place, and should you survive, congratulations, you're one of us. Yeah, he's going to have a wild adventure there. We're going to get to meet his friends and all of that. But we're also going to be putting out a game, the Fates Hunter game, that will let you play through your unique experience there.
So when you say game, is this like I need a GM and multiple players? type situation? Because sometimes that can be a lot of drama, good GMs, tricky.
So the way we're designing the game is it's a twofer, it's a 2-in-1. So if you have a tabletop role-playing group and you want to run through the game with them, there will be a full game that you can play through with them. GM can set up things and do what a GM does to help you get through the game. But there will also be a full Oracle system in the game so that you can play it as a solo tabletop RPG. It actually started out as just a solo tabletop RPG, and I thought that's kind of where it would stay until I got to thinking about the book that's going to be coming out. I thought to myself, like, the main thrust of that book is we're actually watching 3 characters go through their time there at the Mother Temple. If you had a group that wanted to go through it, it should be easy for you to run this in a group setting. And the nice thing is this is being built in Cypher, which all hail the Cypher system. If you're not familiar with it, you can go over to Money Cook Games and check it out. They have completely open sourced the system for the game, and we're going to be doing a lot with that. It will also be compatible with all of the other Cypher games. So if there's a species or something from one of the other Cypher games that you want to bring in and play with, that's perfectly compatible with all of that. But they have in their system what are called shorts, and a short is literally that. It's a quick down and dirty, hey, you want to play a tabletop role-playing game. You have a very stripped down bare bones character, and you're thrown directly into a situation. Hey, you want to play a boss fight? Hey, do you want to, it's really for one of those, you met with some friends and went, it would be really fun to do a tabletop game right now. Let's just throw something together real quick and just play it. So the characters aren't that deep. They don't go through all the steps that you would in normally creating a character. In fact, the short system doesn't even have a concept of character progression, because the idea is I'm making a character for this one session or maybe a couple sessions, but it's not a campaign. It's just, let's try this thing. And we were able to adapt those rules as well as the full Cypher rules into Fate's Hunter. And what's really cool is, depending on you, if you're doing this as a solo game, you can actually choose either style of character creation. So if you want a deep character that has all of the other attributes and kind of depth that you would get in a regular tabletop role-playing character, you can go through that, because I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but I am planning on doing expansions to Fate's Hunter. I actually have a couple in mind where after you survive and get out of school, what do you do out in the big wide world? So there are several ideas that I've got kind of worked out of what those could be like. One would, of course, kind of tie into the next story in the Mask of the Gods series. And one actually ties into a series that I'm not going to be talking about yet.
So wait, they're out there with Fate's powers and they range about places? Or, yeah.
Fate in this setting is very different from the way Fate and Destiny are handled in most settings. Fate is only sealed when the deed is done. There is no, you are destined to do a thing. It is, this is what is most likely to happen. And at any point along the way, different decisions could have been made. If we were doing Revenge of the Sith, for example, in my setting, when Anakin saw Padme and Obi-Wan together, he had the full ability to sit back and go, maybe I'm not understanding this properly. He is not destined to fall. He's most likely to fall, right?
Yeah.
That ending where he, chokes out his wife and gets into a duel with Obi-Wan, likely to happen, but it is the most likely result and not what is fated to happen. Things can come in and screw up the best laid plans of gods and men at any point in time. And that's what I find most interesting about the goddesses of fate, the twin goddesses of fate in this setting, is they're not looking for people to enforce their will. They're looking for people to make sure that the weave is beautiful. They're wanting to perfect the weave. So they're looking at and constantly seeing the most likely outcome. They have a desire, what they would like to have happen. And if you've read the Fates Harrow book, then you know they will intervene and cause problems for people who try to step off of their plan. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't want to give any spoilers for that book, but it's, you know, you can see the sisters in action there. They're not looking to have everything under their strict control. And I think that leads to a very interesting thing, that when they're looking for somebody who will be their hand in the world, they're not looking for somebody who's obedient, not trying to make fate happen as it is foretold or must happen, but they're looking for somebody who will perfect the weave, who will make it the best it can possibly be. They're looking for someone who will challenge and test and make something happen, not just succumb to the whims of fate.
They're not looking for a probability prognosticator. They want somebody who will affect it. So it's cause and effect play. But when you're saying perfect the weave of fate, do you mean the eloquence in the cause and effect chains? Or is that also one of the differed upon which fate you're speaking with, as far as what is beauty is in the eye of the beholder?
It really comes down to that latter one, because like I said, they're sisters, and both Norsha and Thesson have their own views as to what makes it beautiful, what makes it work. There are actually articles over on the Baron's End World Anvil for both Norsha and Thesson right now, if you haven't taken a look at them, to give you a better sense of who they are as deities and as people, because they are characters. They have a will and a whim of their own. The problem is they are more infinite beings, so their goals, plans, ambitions are beyond the ken of most people to grasp. And like I said, they're not necessarily looking for somebody to blindly follow or obey. And God help you if they truly disagree.
Yeah.
Because then it really does become a struggle between the two of them. And well, it's better to have both of them like you than none of them like you, but a little dicey if only one of them likes you, because there's a fine line between destiny and nemesis. You don't want to turn them into a nemesis. So we've been working on this game. We've been working on it for some time, and hopefully it will be available soon for the beta testers, and hopefully not too long after that for a much wider audience. We've been talking about this a lot, and I think to those people who are subscribed over on the Substack or on Ko-fi or Patreon, we're going to do an open beta for the game so that they can, once it goes through the first round of beta testing with us players we have lined up, we're going to open it up and let people who are helping to make all of this possible get early access to it, help us work out anything that we might have missed, because we've got maybe 5 to 10 people have said that they want to test this out, and the larger group that are testing it, the better. But yeah, that'll hopefully be moving forward soon. It's really hard to give a date on that because I have my motives and ambitions. Recently, I was like, we need to change this fundamental thing about the game system that we're doing. It mostly affects the Oracle system for the game. So it's not like a change to Cypher itself. So if you're familiar with playing Cypher, that's all going to be pretty much the Cypher game that you're used to, with a few additional systems added, basically dealing with fate themselves. But for the Oracle system, I wanted it to be a bit more granular, and I wanted it to actually take probability into effect and not just chance.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that fundamentally changed certain aspects of it, so it delayed the work.
Lots of fun math and probability statistics and dealing with dice rolls and all of that, because it's kind of interesting, but you'd be amazed with the difference between rolling 3d6 versus rolling a d20.
Yeah.
And it's not just how many numbered variables there are in there from 1 to 20 versus 3 to 18. That actually has a lot to do with probabilities and chances of actually rolling.
Yeah, there are a lot of numbers that are
things.
much more likely to pop up than others. And I really wanted to do that, to go to a 3d6, just because I want rare things to be rare.
Yeah.
And not, like, it feels when you roll a 1 on a d20, oh, I rolled a 1, or you roll a 20 on a d20, like, I rolled a 20. But you have a straight up 5% chance of either happening.
Yeah.
And in a 3d6, if you roll 3 straight 1s, I think that's a 2% chance of happening. It's like 2.4 from 9%, I think, to roll all 1s or all 6s. Whereas to roll any of the numbers in the middle of the scale there, like an 8, 9, or a 10, you're looking at about a 15% chance.
Yeah. Whereas
is,
on a d20, it's still 5%
it's
chance
5%,
to roll a 13.
Yeah.
Or to roll a 12. It's 5% chance.
Yeah. And I don't know. I wanted rare things to be rare.
Yeah.
And it's brought a lot more work into the process, because now I have to revamp a lot of the Oracle, but I think the game will be better for it in the long run. But it's not just a game that we're working on. So it is Worldbuilding Summer Camp, and I am desperately trying to participate in it. The problem is I have a lot of irons and a lot of fires right now, and I've been very open about my chronic pain issues. And with all of the storms moving through, they have been beating the living crap out of me. But I'm desperately trying to do some stuff for Worldbuilding Summer Camp. And at least one article is up. The House of the Hollow Talon went up before the recording of this. I don't know how many will be up by the time this goes out, but at least one has already gone up. And that kind of segues into the other thing that we're going to try to do, and that is have a regular series of short stories coming out over on the Substack over at projectshadow.com. And I'm looking at this to continue the Star Wars analogy, because y'all know I'm a big Star Wars fan, of kind of doing something like the Clone Wars. And by that, I don't mean the Clone Wars, but I really like the format that they did, that they had some standalone episodes. They were short episodes, but you had some standalone episodes. A lot of episodes went into 3-part or 4-part arcs that would make up a whole story, but each one was a contained bit for its part. And I'm looking at that model for how I want to do these short stories, where some are just going to be a one-off, one story about one person doing one thing. Some of them are going to be more intertwined, interconnected. And for that, I wanted to come up with a series of stable characters and settings that this can be going down in. And because coming up with characters is really the thing that hurts me the most when I'm making something, because I really like to know a lot about my characters. And so anytime I have to introduce a new character, it just stops the writing. I'm not one of those people that's like, I can fix it in post, I can figure it out later. It's like, nah, I really need to know who they are, what their motivations are.
Trust me, I've tried it. I'm like, it's Bob. Just roll on. Everybody knows a Bob. It's Bob. It's fine. It's just Bob. It's like, no, I need to know all about Bob.
Yeah. And that is just something I am not capable of.
Does Bob still have a mother? He might be a superhero. You don't know. If his mother died in youth, he could be a superhero. Because apparently all superheroes have dead mothers.
Or they're narcissistic billionaires. One
or the other. Yeah.
Sorry, we're doing a rewatch of She-Hulk right now, and that is a wonderful line where she's like, I can't be a superhero because he's not a narcissistic billionaire and whose parents are still alive.
Yep.
Such a good show. Anyway, so I'm starting to do the necessary world building for that. It's going to happen in the Trine, which there's already some articles up on the World Anvil about that. As I'm doing some of the world building for it, it will be showing up over there. The House of the Hollow Talon is an Araden house, and there, of course, is stuff up on the Araden over there. And I think I'm just going to say the high concept for this, because this is an idea that's been kind of creeping around in the back of my head for a while, but has never been novel worthy. Like, I've never been able to have a plot that I felt like could handle a novel or a novella or a novelette even, but I think would work really well for short stories. And I guess the easiest way to say it, the way I've always worded it in my notes, is what if Downton Abbey but wuxia? So a lot of that house intrigue and all of that kind of stuff, very almost period PC, but in the sci-fi setting. But instead of just like the scandals you might be used to, people are going to die. There's going to be some fights. There's going to be some action sequences. There's going to be some magic and whatnot.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Starship in the Manor House.
Yes. Yes. Going back to Brian Dacey's wonderful way of talking about the setting. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be that. There's one character I want to talk about, but I'm not until an article comes out about him that popped into my head in a dream. And I love it when characters do that. And I love him and I love his species so much, and I can't wait to get the write-ups done on them and get them out to you. But that's going to be it for the future. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. They're going to be quick and dirty stories because they are short stories. So I'm going to be writing them. We're going to put them very quickly through the editing process, and they're going to just be going out on the Substack. They're first, of course, to those who are the paid subscribers over there, but eventually they will come out to all. So if you don't have the money, like I know I'm talking about the Substack and the Ko-fi and Patreon a lot in this episode because we pour.
Well, also it's just a matter of we would love to hire additional staff even down the road to help increase production speed of everything, but that takes resources.
Don't worry, you will not be cut out if you can't afford anything. Like you will eventually get stuff, just it's going to go out to the paid supporters first and then eventually out to everybody. But yeah, they're going to be going out fairly quickly. I'm not going to guarantee a length for any of these stories. I think that would be a mistake to try to say. I think some are going to be short, maybe 1,000-word stories. Some might be 5,000-word stories. It really depends on the story itself. Some might just be really short vignettes, but we will be doing collections of them to go out on Kindle and up in the various shops and stuff so that people who like that sort of thing can have that sort of thing. And of course, we can do paperbacks and the like as well. I'm excited about that because I have so much story in my head. And a lot of the work we're trying to do right now is trying to find ways to get it not only out of my head, but out to y'all in a way that works, in a way that you will hopefully enjoy.
Well, also, okay, so just a quick refresher for the audience members who may be wondering this right now. What's the World at Anvil again? Location?
I'm Baron's End on World Anvil, or you can just search for C.E. Dorset and you'll see all of my worlds over there.
So if you're wanting stuff to read right away and you want to get into the setting, how many words roughly?
I think there's over 65,000 words up there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a full novel.
Published.
Published.
Yeah.
Words over there.
There are a lot of articles that are yet to be published.
Hundreds of thousands of words worth of unpublished articles.
Yeah.
That will be going up there regularly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of... I really like using it for world building. It's going to get a lot more detailed and stuff, especially with some of the changes that are coming to Chronicles. I really like the Chronicles. I set up one actually for this setting. A Chronicle is a way to link a timeline to a map and then all of that to various articles on the site. And I really, really like it. The problem is I like timelines just on their own, and I do a lot of timelines over there. And soon, Jimmy has been promising it, that it will be coming soon. We will actually be able to import our timelines into a Chronicle so that they will be connected. So I don't have to put everything in twice. Right now, everything has to be in twice. And I don't like that. I don't like to have to duplicate work. But I think it's really cool because you can start at the galaxy map, and for some things where it's not so important, you just blip around from this planet to that planet and get a sense on the galaxy map of where things are going on. but you can actually deep link in so that if something's happening in a region, you can actually flip over to a zoomed in map and then move around in there as things are going on. If something's just happening in a planet or a city, you can zoom into that level and get that level of detail where you can move around and you can really experience the story in a really interesting way because all of the pins are there. So you can just go to the pins or you can follow the timeline. You can just select a location and see all of the things that have happened there. And I really like that as a way of, especially the kinds of more complex stories that I like to tell with these very elaborate histories and backstories and events and whatnot. I really like it for all of that, but it's unfortunately not as useful on the writing side of things for me to get access to all of the things that I want to have access to, because with the timelines over there, I can create an entry once and have it show up on multiple timelines. So if it affects multiple stories, I can do the write-up on the entry one time and have it show up on all of the timelines where it's going to have an impact on the story. I can't do that with Chronicles right now. And that to me is a limitation that, like I said, Demi has said that he's going to fix. And I can't wait for that. I really can't wait for that, because especially with a scale like we're talking about, because while these stories don't span the whole of the galaxy yet, they do span a lot of space. And I don't think in reading them, it's quite as clear to people how much space is covered in these stories. And I don't know, I've always been a map geek. I have learned to read so many maps of the Federation because Star Trek can't get its butt together and have a canonical map. So every time they publish a map of the galaxy in Star Trek, it's different.
Yeah.
All of the planets are different. Everything is different about it. I remember when the Federation got moved from spanning between the Alpha and Beta Quadrant to just being in the Alpha Quadrant because they decided to make that a thing. Oh, so everything kind of tilted on its axis and they'd still reorganized where everything was. But
it made me giggle and go, that explains why stellar cartography is an entire department on every ship and in the Federation, because they keep changing everything. So you need an entire department of people and an entire division of Starfleet to keep track of that.
It really makes you feel like the Q are playing snooker with all of the planets and star systems because they're never in the same place in 2 maps.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was just like, oh, this is a great way to mess with everybody.
That's kind of my out of my head canon on why the maps keep changing. But I'm trying to be much more consistent with my fiction, except for in the places where that consistency is a problem. Because I have had, not with the sci-fi setting, but with one of my other settings, there are a couple things that are constantly pointed out to me as an error that people aren't realizing. No, those are 2 unreliable narrators.
Yeah.
Neither one of them is actually true. And I haven't really done that so much with the sci-fi setting, with the Baron Zen setting, but I will say that not every group uses the same names for things. I think there are some people that might have the sense that there are different things that are actually the same thing because people are using different words for it. But I like that level of complexity. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I love the worlds of J.R.R. Tolkien. And that to me makes the world feel more lived in, which is why sometimes my world building is overly complex and overly Baroque, but you can blame that on Tolkien. It's something that I like to do. Also, Robert Jordan. We blame a lot of that on Robert Jordan as well. It is a struggle for me when writing not to do the Robert Jordan thing of, now we're going to this town. This town was founded and blah, blah, blah. Thank God for World Anvil, because I can write all that and then cut and paste it into the article for World Anvil, and it doesn't slow the story down in the actual text anymore, and we can just put in what needs to be there. But I'm definitely that kind of writer where I just want to do that. But yeah, I wanted to give you an update, especially about the short stories, because we've talked about the game. We've talked about the game a bit, and more kind of generally and philosophically, but I'm really excited about this idea of what we're going to be doing fiction-wise. Now, we are probably also going to be using Ream, which you can find at reamstories.com. I know this is going to be a shock. C. Dorset on Ream. as well.
You know,
We already
Bob over there.
have the Ream account set up, and the Legends of the Jade Moon books are over there, as well as the Tales of the Silver Fox book, Shine Like Thunder, is over there. And we're going to probably move more of the fiction over there as well. But that is another place that you can sign up and support, and eventually the free stuff will show up there as well. But we need the pennies to keep everything going, so we are going to be using them for monetization as well. We had debated whether or not we wanted to put all of our eggs in one basket, and our decision was try to be everywhere. And if the entire audience picks a platform, then we know, okay, we need to go all in on this one platform. But for now, I don't know who wants to be over at Substack, who wants to be over on Ream, who wants to be in Ko-fi, who wants to be on Patreon. I feel like because of the ubiquity of Patreon, it probably has the best bet of being where people want to be, because people probably already have Patreon accounts. Ream is picking up, and I love Substack a lot. I understand why some people have a problem with Substack. I do too. I think that they should be better about their policy of who they let use the platform, but I'm not going to get into that.
That's also the great thing about eggs. You can scramble them up, and then they easily go on many baskets.
Yeah.
Not on, but go on baskets too.
But yeah, so we're going to be a little bit everywhere. So if you go to projectshadow.com, you'll find the main Substack as well as where our articles and stuff are. And yeah, I'm sure you can hear the fear in my voice. I'm very excited about this, but I'm also, it's those publication jitters. Anytime you're putting anything out in the world, it is what it is. We're also going to be podcasting a lot more, so look for us here on the Non-Binary Writer, where I am going to be talking more with my husband about my fiction and stuff, because he's very good at guiding and keeping me on track, and we'll be doing more conversations over here. We're also going to be doing a lot more over on the Project Shadow podcast, which you can find both of them wherever you get your podcasts.
We also have our live stream on Thursday where we game and talk about stuff. But that may also maybe another project down the road.
Oh, I've talked about that before. You don't have to be. You have to be coy about that.
Okay.
The goal with that, starting the game podcast on Thursdays, was that eventually that will be where I am playing the tabletop role-playing game that we're making with other people on the stream. And hopefully that will eventually happen. The game has taken some hiccups. There's been a lot of hiccups along the way. I think we're in a good place to move
right
forward.
Now everybody's learning. Don't let me be a wizard in the group, because I'm going to cast Fireball, and I don't care what size the space is. Y'all should have good saving throw rolls, or know that your sacrifice was worth it to get the rest of the enemies that were in the room.
Definitely join us over there. And I think that's it for today. In the past, this has been a daily podcast. It may stay a daily podcast. It may just be a weekly podcast. We'll see how much we have to talk about and how much energy we have, because I don't know. But somewhere between daily and weekly is where you're going to be hearing from us for here, depending on what we have to say. We also may be bringing back some of the other podcasts. I know some of you have spoken about your interest in me doing another season of myth weaving, and I am open to the idea of that. I've been trying to put together ideas for that, because I like to have an idea of a syllabus for each season, because that is much more of a teaching how-to podcast. So if there's anything about writing in particular that you would like to know more about, or you have questions about, definitely send those to me. You can also find me, I'm CE Dorset, on both Threads and Blue Sky. I'm still in the habit of saying Twitter, even though Twitter is very dead to me. And I've been most active, surprisingly, on Threads lately. But you can find me on both. I do believe my DMs are open on both, but you can at least at me on both, and we can have some conversations there as well. Did I forget anything?
No.
Alrighty. So until next time, remember, you're a writer if you tell stories. If you put them on paper, you are a writer. You're a successful writer when you finish a story. And you're a published writer when that book goes into print in whatever method it does. Until next time, don't forget to have the fun. Bye.
Bye.